If you ever wondered if you could sell your group program or even your one-on-one program through a sales funnel using Facebook ads, I'm going to break down a funnel today by a productivity system called Productivity Giant that is selling their group program for several $1,000s by taking some traffic via Facebook ads, sending them to a lead magnet, and eventually getting them to that group program. So I'm going to walk you through step by step how they're doing it, what really works well, and what kind of stuck out to me, what improvements they can make along the way. So stay tuned as I kind of go through each stage of the funnel and how you can kind of build your own for your own unique product or service. If you're new to my channel, I'm Brian Czekanski. I'm a sales funnel specialist and a direct response copywriter. Every single Friday, I come up with the sales funnel breakdown of the week, where I take a look at those sales funnels that really stood out to me. I break them down into what are some of the best practices that I'm seeing, what's working really well, but also those areas of improvement so they can kind of complete the picture and you can see what is working well for companies and how you can take some of those insights and use them for your own funnel and get some more customers from your online presence. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. So every time I come out with content every single week, you'll get notified. So if you have any suggestions on what funnels I should break down in upcoming weeks, feel free to drop a comment below. Otherwise, let's jump into this week's submission. That this pandemic has put a lot of stress on people working from home, but also managing their home life as well. And I've really been no different. Going back to March, when kind of the pandemic hit its escalation point, where I live in New York City, it's one of those that has kind of cut my work hours in half, as now my two young kids are kind of out of daycare for the foreseeable future. And so I'm watching them during the day and kind of shifted all my business hours to after they go to sleep. So not particularly great productive hours for me in terms of after 9 p.m., kind of working into the wee hours of the morning, trying to still run a business while taking care of them during the day. There's certainly been periods where client work has kind of overwhelmed me, and I've kind of been super stressed about, the results that I'm getting for clients, but also, just managing that, getting some sleep, but also managing the kids during the day, but also, getting work done as well. And I think, one of those pain points that I've had is at certain points, you just feel like I couldn't take a day off. Like, there's certainly days where I just wanted to catch up on sleep and things like that. But, as the projects kind of piled up, or as I had to hit certain deadlines, I just felt certainly overwhelmed, and it probably hit its, tipping point a couple weeks ago, about a month ago, where I kind of just felt overwhelmed by a series of different projects. I was so busy, working on those things, all these things, but I didn't really feel like my business was really moving forward. I wasn't kind of moving the needle a lot in terms of what I was looking for. So the funny part is, in kind of, I was working for a productivity company and helping out with their marketing, and I came across the funnel that we're going to look at today from Productivity Giant, and looking at what they were doing to hopefully inspire what I was doing for my client at the time. And there was very much a lot of the copy that we'll go through that you'll see very much resonated with kind of the situation I was in, kind of being overwhelmed, kind of being very busy, but not feeling like everything was moving along, kind of struggling to maintain that home life but work balance as well. And that was kind of straining my relationships. So, this funnel is something that I've kind of went through. Their lead magnet, as you'll see, is something that was, kind of very heavy on value. And I think their system is something that's very simple and practical and kind of exactly what I needed at the time to kind of simplify everything that I was doing down to a couple simple tasks every single week, so that I know at the end of each week that my business is moving forward. It becomes a lot more manageable with the time that I have, and I can kind of manage it along the way, still get some sleep with that. So this is one of those funnels that I personally went through. I kind of very much resonated with. It's not going to be every single week as I break down funnels. That's not always going to be the case, but I really want to start with this one because it's something that has, had a very strong and positive impact in my life in terms of their system in the last few weeks. It's made my life a little bit easier, more manageable, and I feel really good about where I'm going forward by just kind of simplifying down to kind of those higher leverage activities every single week. And we'll get in a little bit more detail. I'll show you what Productivity Giant is trying to do with their system. And it's one that I've really very much recommended to my network as well. I know You probably, there's probably plenty of people within the audience here that you're watching it today where you're kind of feeling a lot of overwhelmed. So kind of go into that link. I'll show you kind of the lead magnet in the webinar that they have. You can go through that, but I would highly recommend that, if you're going through and you're kind of overwhelmed by, kind of this pandemic environment or kind of moving your business forward, there's a lot of value here. And that's kind of what really resonated with me and why I kind of want to start with this funnel as well, because they're doing a lot of great things, but there's obviously room for improvement as well. And I'll point those out as well. So let's just start. I'll start with each stage of the process, but I just want to start with, kind of explaining that, this is one of those funnels that kind of hit one of the pain points that I was having at the moment. And you'll have that with each of the sales funnels, going after a specific market. Is it kind of addressing that audience's main pain point? Is it offering a clear solution? And are you providing kind of that, that pathway to getting towards that paid product or program that you're looking for? And this was a good example of one that really resonated with me, provided that value, and really, moving people along to becoming clients really quickly. So let's jump in to kind of the first stage. So the first step of the funnel is the traffic. Where are you getting those eyeballs onto, coming into your funnel? Where are those people? Where are you catching people's attention? How are you getting in front of those ideal clients that you're really looking for? So within this funnel, we're really focused on kind of sales pros, some of those solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and kind of, those financial advisors like that. So that's kind of the target market. And I think one of the things that really stood out to me in kind of going through these is, number one, within their advertising, they try to be very specific in terms of who they're going after and using that right language that kind of speak to them. So you can see at the bottom here, kind of creating ads specifically for financial advisors and down here for as well, but kind of also separating out kind of sales pros, entrepreneurs, and that kind of thing. So recognizing that within their market, there are similarities with some of the audience, that they're talking to, but kind of separating them out as much as possible within those categories, because they know with certain people are dealing with certain different things, talk in different languages, and use different words, and certain situations are going to resonate with them a little bit more than others. So if we kind of just look at the Facebook ads right here, and kind of looking at some of the, and kind of really targeting the sales pros. So for the top, again, they're being very deliberate and kind of almost calling out those sales pros and saying like, you're closer than you think. So, that sales pro at the end of the week that kind of just is struggling and kind of really busy and, doesn't feel like their business is moving forward, kind of those first few lines is kind of really speaking to them directly. And within a Facebook ad, kind of the first or second line is really where you kind of have to catch their attention before they hit that see more button. Kind of think about that as kind of micro commitments. So if they hit that see more button, they're more likely to read the rest of your ad and eventually click through, to where you want them to go. So, really focusing on those first few lines and kind of making sure it resonates and get them going forward. So that was one that kind of resonated with them. So kind of speaking to the frustration, especially from a sales pro perspective, talking about, the differences between those good salespeople and successful ones, that you might be sitting here in this perspective, and that kind of resonates as kind of a former sales professional. I've been in those situations before, and this is copy that definitely has resonated with me. And then, talking about being more reactive all day. So I can tell you from working in sales for almost 10 years, like I was, almost every day it was all reactive. Where, I walk in and it was kind of based upon the inquiries I was getting from the market. And I was kind of just answering questions as they came through. I didn't have a kind of a set schedule or a set high leveraged actions that I really wanted to get done on a weekly basis. So I think I did well within my environment, but I can see kind of the difference as you go through and what they're talking about here and kind of the differences there. So again, they're kind of describing kind of the difference. So they've kind of called out at the top, there's kind of that difference between a good salesperson and a successful one. Now they're kind of digging a little bit deeper in terms of being, are you reactive, and kind of thinking and making these sales pros kind of think about, like, within my day, am I more reactive or am I being more intentional? And this kind of leads into, and again, gives some curiosity to eventually hitting that see more button in talking about that potential solution. So if you are more intentional in your business, does that mean you can get better results but work a little bit less? Your sales job doesn't have to take over your life a little bit, and they kind of speak to that as well. So kind of speaking to those benefits, so being able to unplug every Friday and having that feeling that you've moved it along, rather than, okay, I had this really busy week and I'm not really sure what I was going to get out of that. And I think definitely a lot of sales professionals see that all the time, especially with some of their outreach, but also as they go through some of those projects, it kind of becomes like, was that time well spent? This is talking about a program and a system that really can get you there. So again, very good copy in terms of really knowing your audience. What are some of the pain points that they're going through? What are they looking for? What are some of maybe their false beliefs, or what are they going through right now that they maybe really haven't thought about, being more reactive and more intentional, and then kind of speaking to, kind of one of the key benefits. Like at the end of the week, you're moving forward and you have progress as well, and it kind of naturally lends itself to, clicking more to this next link here. In terms of the photos being very bright, it's something that kind of catches your attention with the greens and the yellows. So within the news feed, it's something that, the photo is really designed to kind of just stop people in their tracks, get them reading your ad and all the way down. So I thought, with the various different photos they had here, certainly something that would stick out in the news feed, with this one trying to be a little bit more humorous in what they're trying to do. And then from a financial advisor perspective, talking about leaving a lot of money on the table. Again, it's a little bit different than that Sales Pro conversation by not having a strategy or a system where you're going out there and trying to make as many cold calls or trying to set up as many meetings as possible, kind of that scattered approach, and you're hoping that something will stick. So financial advisors maybe versus sales pros go about it in a little bit differently. They have slightly different problems. So, the copy here kind of really reflects that. I'd also mention as well, between the financial advisors and the sales pros, that kind of link that they're sending them to. For this one, the financial advisors are going to a webinar. The other one going more towards the book. So kind of knowing very well, and I'm sure they've tested this within their ads. They know very well that financial advisors are more, in that realm where they might be, they would want to watch more of a webinar and kind of go through that, versus maybe a sales pro that might be more predisposed to going through a book and getting some insights there. So, it's one of those within a funnel that you might have, really knowing your audience and something to test as well, like making sure that in really consuming your lead magnet, whatever it is, or your webinar, like, is it conducive to the audience that you're really speaking to? Is it something that they'll kind of sit down and watch? Do they have the opportunity within their day to kind of sit down and watch a 30, 40-minute webinar and kind of move on to that next step? Or is it not something that's possible? For somebody like a sales pro who might be at traveling a lot or going to a lot of meetings, they might have some downtime to kind of just catch up on the book that they have there. But again, something to test, and it's good to have kind of options within that to see where the conversions are really improving. And I'll show you those, how the two different approaches that they're trying and leading to. So it's worth kind of testing out, like, what is that next step in the process as you go from that Facebook ad to that next step? Is it a PDF guide? Is it a webinar? You could also do a video sales letter as well to be a little bit more, go a little bit more direct in trying to sell your program as well. But really the idea is to take somebody from a Facebook ad, really, great way to kind of get in front of your audience in a very cheap way, get them to something with a little bit more value up front, but also get them moving towards, that next step in the process, which is really becoming a client of your business, and within this, becoming part of their productivity group program within that. So this is the traffic side. I'm going to move on to the next step in the process, which is looking at the lead magnet. Well, I've kind of clicked through in the Facebook ad for the Sales Pro. Here's kind of that thank you page that would come through after I gave them my email address and my name. I didn't show you the opt-in page here, but I think, anytime you have an opt-in page, kind of a reminder, don't assume that they, will click on that Facebook ad and immediately give away their name and their email address. Make sure that you're kind of selling that next step, always kind of giving them a reminder of what exactly you're going to give them in exchange for their name and email address. Don't just assume that they click through and they'll give you that. So make sure you got a little bit more context on there. If you have testimonials and things like that to kind of lend some credibility and proof to your program or whatever it is that you're giving away, that's helpful as well. Within this thank you page, I thought this was a really good video, again, that provides a little bit more context in terms of, why I should read this book. So, put together a very short video, really to motivate me to go to the bottom here of the page and kind of download the book and kind of consume it. So that was really good. It's probably one that it could put on the opt-in page as well to kind of motivate me a little bit more to give my name and email address, but perfectly fine within this. One of the things that I would recommend is, for the person that, is part of the, kind of leading this organization or this program, Brian Margolis is his name, allow me to kind of see him, like, let me start building that relationship with him. He put together this video. I would suggest that you always kind of put your face, if you're the face of your program, the face of your company, allow me to start building that relationship with you by just, even if it's for 30 seconds to kind of just introduce yourself or introduce the program, it's worthwhile to kind of see that human or that person behind whatever company you have or, one of your employees. So give kind of a face to the name and start building that relationship. I think it's really important. That's one of the great ways of using video as well. He didn't do it, within this video, but I think he did a really good job of further qualifying people along the way, making sure that those people that actually do read the book and kind of speaking directly to those pain points and going along with them. So one of the things that I would definitely talk about kind of improvements, and you'll see this as well in kind of lead magnet and also the webinar is, when you get to the point where they've given away, in exchange for that lead magnet or webinar, they've given you their name and their email address, and they've kind of gone through to the confirmation page, always sell the next step. So you've got somebody that has kind of raised their hand and said, I have the pain point that your solution offers. You can give them, that lead magnet or that webinar, but start selling that next step, start selling that solution that you can provide for them. You've got people that are very highly motivated. Their pain point might be at its extreme, and they might be ready right away to sign up for your program. So don't wait for them to consume your lead magnet or the webinar, because, all told, regardless of what, those things look like or the quality of them, most people won't, consume them. They'll be distracted by something else, or something will come up in their day and they'll kind of just lose focus and they'll move on. So you have to kind of capture their attention and their motivation when you have it. And when they opt in is when, kind of the height of that. So you want to start selling that next step right away, talking about, in this instance, talking about that group program, what it's all about, how that can help them, especially with their pain points right now. Talk about how they can kind of get started right away. And what you'll see, it's not going to be absolutely everybody, but you will have those people that, the pain point is just so high and your solution kind of matches up so perfectly with what they're looking for, that they're willing to kind of just sign up right away, regardless of if they go through your lead magnet or not. So always offer that solution, always kind of just talk about and kind of take your prospect by the hand and say, this is kind of the process we're going to go through, but here's also the step on how you can start being a client or customer right away and guide them along with that. So, this is a great way of doing that. So within this confirmation page, always put up a video. If you can introduce the kind of the person behind the company, whether that's you or not, thank them for signing up, for the lead magnet or webinar, give them a little bit more information about all the benefits that it's going to include, and get them motivated to, consume that. You want them consuming that if they can, but also start selling that next step. So talk about how you can potentially help them, for some kind of fee and go through that. And allow people to kind of take that next step if they want to. And this is more technical as well, is one of the things that you should always do is always point people to their email. So in this one, he just has a button that says download my free book. But the way I would do it is ask them to check their email. And the reason to do that is get them straight to their email, especially if you're, that first email that you send out went to the spam folder for whatever reason or things like that. is a quick way to make sure that they see that they get it out of the spam or whitelisted or things like that, and get in the habit of opening your emails and kind of continuing that conversation. We'll talk about it in a second, but that automated email sequence that you have as part of your funnel is kind of that next best way to sell that next step in the process. And that's really what the design of the email sequence is to get them in the habit of opening your emails, kind of start introducing and building that relationship with you and your company, sharing some success stories, but ultimately selling them on that next step. So, in the next week or 5 to 7 days, as you kind of drip out those emails about your program, that's kind of an extension of your lead magnet or webinar, and telling them how they can sign up, it's really important to kind of establish that habit right away. So always, as much as possible, again, on that thank you page, point them to their email, and that's where you should provide the link either to the lead magnet, or if you have a webinar registration, get them pushed towards that as well, because we want to start establishing those habits so that in the next few days they start seeing your name and get in the habit of opening your emails, clicking the links, and ultimately hopefully becoming a client as well. We click through to the lead magnet. In this instance, it's kind of a mini ebook for sales professionals and entrepreneurs, kind of describing their program in detail, kind of going through how kind of the story behind how he created it, providing some success stories along the way, and really going into detail. What does the system include? How it can help you, and how you can actually start using it in your own life. So this is really what lead magnets, and this is a great example of one where you're providing a lot of value up front. So within this, I can go through, I think it's about 100 pages, a book, so not too huge, but something you can kind of sit down with, especially for those people that are really motivated, and read through it and get a better sense of the system. It's something that I did. I kind of went through this book, got a better sense of what the system's all about, started instituting in my own life, and kind of saw similar results that some of the case studies talked about. So it's one of those, as you kind of think about your ideal prospect, what is that, key obstacle? What are those series of challenges that they're going through, and how can you provide some immediate, benefits or value right away? How can you get them from maybe a stuck and paralyzed state to moving forward to that kind of end goal that they're looking for? So this was kind of a great example of that, where you're providing a lot of value. I've kind of developed that trust with this company, without even talked to them or set up a call with them. They've given me a lot of value. They've improved my life just by giving away a free guide. So I'll probably go back to them at some point and, either sign up for their program or at least have a phone call with them to kind of dive a little bit deeper into their system, because I know, if this is something that they're giving away for free, they probably have a whole host of other strategies that can really help me, further improve my productivity, get me better results within, less, hours of work. So, it kind of just shows for me, if this is something that they're giving away for free, there's probably on the other side of that paid program, there's just a lot of other value that's out there. So again, just being very much upfront with the value is a powerful way to kind of build that relationship with your prospects up front, start building that trust, and maybe they won't sign up with you right away, but 6 months down the line, 9 months down the line, you're going to continue to be top of mind for them because you've given them results, you've moved them in the right direction, and they feel kind of that commitment to you altogether. The other thing that I really point out with this lead magnet that Productivity Giant did really well is kind of giving a unique name to their program and how they described it. It's extremely simple in how they kind of describe it and how you can start implementing it. So it's really easy. There's not a lot of roadblocks there, but also in terms of just the shareability of the name. So talking about the index card business plan, kind of gives you a better sense of how simple it is, that you can get a little index card, kind of put in your activities and how you can get down your business to those higher leveraged activities and moving forward on a single business card rather than having this big long to-do list that you might have had before. And then getting down to kind of the unique mechanisms. So what differentiates their process and their strategy from everybody else? And this is where they talk about the pillar system. So it's really kind of they think about kind of, here's the overarching program that we have, which is the index card business plan. but also within that, talking about the pillar system, which kind of, gets into kind of the nuances of their process, and talks about what's really distinct about that, and kind of identifying your pillars. And this is where they kind of get into a lot more detail in the lead magnet, is talking about those pillars, how they can kind of evolve over time, and making sure that their program is not something like a static program that doesn't move along with your business as well. So again, think about, as you're building out your products or your services, putting unique names to them, talking about that unique mechanism or that strategy that really differentiates you from all your other competitors, but also your program name, having something that's easily shareable, 3 or 4 words that really kind of speaks to what are some of the end benefits of your program, or maybe some of the usability. So within this, I can always remember it with that index card that really sticks out with me, talking about those pillars within that business card. So they kind of very much fit together. So I thought that was that was something that really stuck out as you go through. One of the things that I would kind of improve for this, so it's about 115 pages as you go through. So those people that do go through all 115 pages, will be very motivated as they go through. One of the things that kind of noticed as well is, once you get to the end, again, talking about kind of selling that next step. If I go through this whole book and I'm sold on the program, I start instituting it, and I want to have a better idea of okay, how do I start working with this company? What would be that logical next step as I work through it? Within this book, all they really have is you'll see it right here. If you want to learn more about our company or creating and implementing a strategy, go to our website. So again, that doesn't tell me the next logical next step. So don't just point somebody to your general website and hope that they find, how they can book a call with you or sign up for your program. Within your lead magnet, you always have to hold people by the hand and tell them what is that next logical step that you should take. So for this one, it might be a call with Brian, so he can get to know you, kind of qualify you along the way, and push you to whatever program they have. Or it might be, okay, this group program is our best and only program that we have. Let's start selling you on, once you know our program and you start instituting it, here's these additional benefits over and above what you've learned already, why you should sign up, and have a link to that right away. So again, notice that you've only got your prospect's attention for a short period of time. You might have their focus and motivation right away. You've kind of met them at the right opportunity, but if you ask them to take a bunch of other steps or go to your website, the more actions you ask them to take, the less likely they are to do it, and the more likely that you are going to lose them as a potential new client. So make it really easy for people as they kind of consume your lead magnet, as they go through a webinar. What is that next step? How can they help? And explain to people along the way. If the next step is a call, what are those expectations? What are some of the programs that you might have? Just so they have a good idea of why they should be motivated to get on that call. What are they going to get out of that? Kind of really sit in your prospect's shoes and think about what are those hesitations, or what's that lack of motivation? How can I give them a little bit more motivation to take that next step and eventually become a client? Take a look at the other option as well. So you saw one of the Facebook ads, particularly for financial advisors, and instead of sending them to that ebook, what he did was set up a webinar for them. So financial advisors, he's probably seen with that audience, probably more predisposed to going to a webinar, kind of sitting there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes for a webinar, where you can kind of give them the same information that they might have got from that ebook, give them a little bit of value up front, kind of explain the system, kind of qualify them along the way, talk about some of their pain points, where they could go and kind of using this system. So in both of them, you're really kind of using the same characteristics, but obviously with financial advisors, you're using a little bit different language. You're talking about the environments a little bit differently, but there's not a huge difference between that ebook and the webinar script that he's going through. But obviously with the webinar, it makes it a little bit easier to kind of start talking about that next step. And in this one, as you kind of see at the bottom, that next step is kind of just clicking to book a call with him. So, on this page, again, he's got it on there. The one thing that I would kind of, change if you could, it might be one of those that just wasn't possible on this web page, but anytime you have a webinar and you kind of have that next step and the button is below, is, don't show that button right away. Have them watch a certain amount of the video before this button comes up. And don't, a lot of webinars you'll see that don't, in this one, they do allow you to kind of skip ahead and go back. And that's kind of the power of the webinar. I've seen a lot where they kind of take away this control at the bottom. It doesn't allow you to come back, but that anytime that you have to kind of pause it or things like that, you can't rewind. So it kind of motivates people to kind of turn off their distractions or hold off what they're doing next, because they know they have that one opportunity to kind of just sit there and watch it. So just kind of the what I've seen with other webinars as well. But again, it's a little bit easier to kind of sell that next step, and he did it well within this webinar, and talking about like, okay, now that you've kind of learned a little bit more about the strategy, you've got some value about what it's all about, and you can start instituting that these steps in your own life. Let's book a call, and what kind of talking about like what will that include? What is some of the value that you'll get out of that, and how can I potentially help you along the way? And then provides a little bit more about him at the bottom of the page. On this page as well, great opportunity as well to share some more of those testimonials that he might have shared in the webinar as well. So within this page, just providing proof and credibility to get people to that next step is always helpful. So we've come to the final step of the sales funnel, really the email campaign, that automated email campaign. When they opt in for that lead magnet or the webinar, they're opting in for that automated email sequence. To me, this is the most important part of the funnel, largely because most people that opt in for a lead magnet or a webinar don't turn out to actually consume that. They either get distracted by something that's going on, they lose their focus, or just something, they just don't take that next step. So we almost have to always assume that they're not going to read our lead magnet, they're not going to watch your webinar. So this is your opportunity in your email sequence to continue that conversation, talk about, build that relationship over time. I really think about it over the next week, sending them an email every single day, maybe multiple emails, especially in those first few days, that push them to consume your lead magnet or watch your webinar as much as possible. We want to get as many people as possible watching or consuming that as we can. But even if they don't, talking about how you can help them and giving them some value within that email sequence, kind of introducing yourself, start building that know, like, and trust, factor that you really need. So, either for you, if you're the face of the company, kind of sharing a little bit more about your story, sharing some success stories, talking about maybe some of the false beliefs that, your audience has around their pain points, maybe a lot of the other things that they've tried. It's a great opportunity to talk about all the other options that they might have out there and why they're flawed and why your system or your option is the best one for them. Kind of, they, realize that your audience kind of had these menu of options. They have this pain point. They have all these potential solutions that they could try. It's really your job to help them kind of sift through that and talk about like all these other solutions are not as good as yours, and kind of explaining why and getting into that in a little bit more detail. So that's really helpful, to do within an email sequence. And again, getting to the point where you're really selling that next step, whatever it is. So going into maybe some frequently asked questions, kind of going through what your paid program is all about, so that at the end of the week, they really have all their questions answered. They have a lot of the information that they need. So if they want to hop on a call with you, or if you want to send them to a sales page where they can sign up right away, they feel a lot more comfortable that their pain point can be solved by you. They've kind of developed that trust if they've gone through their lead magnet or their webinar, or just kind of consumed a little bit of your emails along the way, because you're kind of sharing those stories and those belief systems that really match up with your solutions as well. So we've kind of gone through this, the funnel so far, and I think they've done a really great job in terms of productivity, Giant and Brian Margolis in terms of setting that up. But this is kind of in their email sequence, kind of where I would say they have the greatest potential for improvement. So in kind of looking at the emails right now, they're kind of very basic in terms of, what's out there, kind of pushing people to join their Facebook group, and kind of putting out kind of like a 9-word email and trying to get responses. So, obviously, getting responses and being a little bit more, so, this one right here is actually a really good one because he's trying to get a response. He's trying to continue that conversation with me. So trying to get that response, getting people to respond is a great way to do that. But I think you can do that in the first email right here. Again, just saying, grab my free book. Again, remind people of what they signed up for, what are some of the benefits that they have. Almost start from the very beginning on each of the steps that you have. So once they signed up for their Facebook ad, you kind of have to sell the process. Once they go through and they're ready to read that lead magnet, you have to sell, kind of remind them and sell them again on why they should read it. Same thing in your emails. Like, I might be reading this email 4 or 5 days afterwards, and I don't remember that I clicked on that Facebook ad and opted into it. So, what is this free book all about? Why should I read it? Why should I click on that link? Don't assume that people will remember or it's top of mind for them as you go through that. And this first email is a great opportunity to say, I'm going to be emailing you over the next 5 to 7 days, and here's all the great stuff, that you're going to get out of it. Develop some curiosity on why they should get excited about reading your emails. What are they going to get out of that? What's that further value that you're going to deliver that you can share along the way? What are some of those stories that you can kind of put some open loops around and get people thinking about that? Again, first email is a great opportunity to throw out a question. Within this instance, talking about productivity, maybe, asking them what's their greatest challenge when it comes to kind of balancing, work and life and business right now within that. So always put in a question. And then again, in that, excuse me, in that first email, selling that next step again, like within the PS of that email, you should be putting in that paid offer, whatever your paid offer is next. Give me a little bit more detail around that, get people to, in that first email, get them right to that next step. And if you want to, along the way, and maybe that second or third email, get them to that Facebook group. To me, that community is great, but I want to turn those people that opted in for my Facebook ads that I'm paying, Facebook, for those leads. I want to turn those leads into clients right away. So I want to be more direct in selling that next step, rather than hoping they get to a Facebook group and eventually become a client. And then in kind of the next, stages of, the emails, this is a great opportunity to, share some of the more stuff, and you can kind of repurpose some of the stuff that was in the webinar and the lead magnet. Again, assume that people haven't read it, and even if they had, it's great to kind of repurpose that and kind of share again and remind them about how some of the product was created. So a great email might be talking about Brian Margolis's, story. So he talked about in the ebook about how he really created this system to address some of the shortcomings that he was going through. So I would love an email that kind of goes into detail about, what were some of the pain points that he was going through at one point in their career, and what was kind of that transformational moment that led him to creating this program, and what does his life look like right now? Share some more of those success stories that you had on the webinar and the ebook. Those are other great emails, story-based emails that you can share. And then going through, again, what are some of those hesitations, objections, false beliefs that your audience might have? Those are other great emails to the point where, you're selling that next step and getting to that. So again, within the stages of the funnel, very good funnel in terms of the setup here. But, if there's one that I would point out, the email campaign at the end in terms of selling that next step, but also developing that relationship, I think there's one where you can see some further improvement in that. So really hope you enjoyed this funnel breakdown that I had for Productivity Giant. If you got some value out of it, hit that like button. Within the comments, give me a shout on what you thought was kind of the best stage of this funnel, especially as you go through and click on that link and go through your funnel yourself. Give me some comments about what really stuck out to you, what really you view as kind of areas of improvement as well. So let me know in the comments. Again, hit that subscribe button every Friday. I'm going to go through a specific funnel and point out what's really working, and hopefully you get some value from that as well. Hit that notification button so you're kind of alerted anytime I give out some marketing content every single week. And with that, I'll see you next week.